Hello, friends. This is a continuation of the Ukraine crisis. Please do not take this lightly. And there are a few points I want to elucidate and clarify in regards to that onslaught of the Soviets. It seems like, if you look at it this way, it seems as if the West, after the Soviets have been destroyed in Afghanistan, well, mostly, there were other factors in their demise as well, such as economic, such as the unpopularity of the regime among its people, who became really stifled. And if you look closely, the only production or output of the Soviet Union as a entity was basically militaristic. I do recall during the time of the Soviets, I was here in the US, that even the United States sent them wheat as assistance, food assistance program. It is true, and they were basically, according to Winston Churchill, they never went beyond military victory, and that was no victory, if you ask me, in World War II. The mass executions, the savagery they committed in Europe, and later on the Iron Curtains, I need not elucidate to you about that. But what I'm trying to say is, as if the West came and made the mistake of reviving that Soviet Union, thinking that the Cold War is over. Cold War is not over, never has been, never will. So long those PutinS, and I say that in plural, are in the Soviet Union or former Soviet Union, the new virtual Soviet Union. So long that those PutinS are in charge, there is Cold War. And as if it's changed from reviving the Soviet Union now, as if the Western leaders are surrendering to the Soviet Union, if you will, whether it is Crimea, whether it is Syria, whether it is, anywhere else, however it is. And as if the situation, the tables have been turned. No, they have not been turned. It was intentionally turned by the Western leaders, because the supposed that tripod of Israel has now been worked out to be the future, which will not work. As a matter of fact, the good news is that it's not working. There are those people who may protest the point about Russia and Ukraine, they're Orthodox, or Greece, or anywhere else for that matter, or Greece, that it is a matter of religion. Meaningly, the Russians are Orthodox, so are the Ukrainians, and so are the Greeks and other European nations. The answer, this is not about religion, nor will you be free or treated special with equality due to being the same religion. This is not about religion, not at all. Some people may say, well, the remnant of the Soviet Union, which is the PutinS, really they are treating the Soviets with freedom, you have it all wrong. This is temporary, and many of the Russians, actually, that I read a report not too long ago, that 30 million Russians, and not counting the Islamic republics, like the Muslim republics of former Soviet Union, such as the Stans, like Kyrgyzstan, or Kazakhstan, or all those. This is not included, like Tajikistan, like Turkmenistan. All these stands are not included. That 30 million Russians are trying to migrate to the West because of their economic conditions, and it's not just the economic conditions. Sometimes there are downturns in the economies and so on. But what they see, they as Russians and as citizens of Russia, what they see is that the future is hopeless, so to speak, and to be frank. And that's what it is. So it is not. Now you may say, why are they doing that? So if they do that to Europe, you're fine with that. No, you're not fine with that, because this is temporary. Eventually they will come to the point where it will be Syria or Iran or elsewhere. And that's the future. under the new world, right? And it will not be for long, no. It is a matter of consolidating power. Now the stage is really consolidating power, not just being a president. You may say, so for now, even if, say, Russia swept across Europe and seized the rule of law and so on, that they may let you live like the Muscovites or St. Petersburg people and so on. And you may say you'll find that no, that's only temporary. Once the consolidation of power, meaning all the power centers and the infrastructure of rule has been secured everywhere, and when there is no need for real wars, that's when all the remaining or the meager remaining freedoms and animal life and so on will be stripped away, period. This is no dream, folks. This is reality. That's what these people are trying to achieve. And in United States, in January 6, 2021, those people, the PutinS, nearly removed the United States as a country. You may say, but some of you think they're already in the White House. Sure, but the White House still have to rule by the Constitution and the institutions of the United States, such as police, such as judges, such as, they're bound by that. You cannot come to a police officer or whoever it is and tell him to go kill at will. No, it doesn't work this way. However, if the Constitution was removed in the United States on January 6th by Trump, who is a brother of Putin, right? That's what he was going to do first, is disable the United States as a liberty-based country. And then they will move about just like the Iranian Revolution, just like the communists, just like Nazism, just like Shanghai Revolution, just like Castro's. They will immediately terminate the people who enabled them, because these people are still powerful and you owe them, and these people don't owe anybody anything, and if they do, that's when they pay the debt by elimination. And that's them, that's the PutinS. So they're in the White House, yes, but they were since John Kennedy, and they were before that actually, but sparsely. However, after John Kennedy, it was consolidated. The White House and the Senate and the Supreme Court and the Congress was consolidated. Trump removed a lot of, so many judges who are local and native, of Northwestern European heritage, Germanic, English, Scandinavian, French, you name it. He removed them and he appointed newer judges who are actually in Hill or are part, a cog in the wheel of Zion or PutinS or Netanyahu. Basic and simple. So this country is being slowly but surely, like a fungus, like taking over the walls and so on. And so is the West, like in Germany. Germany has been under control and duress ever since World War II, and has been slowly changed, and so is France, for that matter, and so is Italy, and so is elsewhere. I do recall in the early 80s, I was watching a news anchor, John Chancellor, who was like a staunch, deadly pro-Israeli person. And there was some battle going on between Red Brigades of Italy, and they kidnapped Aldo Moro and so on. And they were going at them, divulging all their secrets about P2 and Propaganda 2 and so on and so forth. There was, at that point in the 80s, I believe it was, to me, there was no mistaking what's going on in Italy. And sure enough, like it happened. It was a coordinated, premeditated, comprehensive attack on whatever remained in Italy as Italian, at least in the government. But now this is a problem for those people, because if you rule by government alone, that's not enough. You really have to rule through the people. But their agenda and their purpose is really different from that of other polities or other world orders that happened before them. They're different. They're no different from communism. They're no different from Mongolism. They're no different from anybody else. So So heed my warning. The first thing they will do is really begin consolidation on lower bases. And then eventually the future is not good. I can tell you that. And if you look at the trend, usually you can trend as a verb, trend on the past, based on the past to the future. Meaningly, that's how the curve is going. It's not going to go to zero, or it's not going to go to 100% all of a sudden. You know, it's not an abrupt change. So you can trend, and the trend is going upward. And there are historical markers in every country and worldwide. I'll tell you this, for example. If you notice, if you research history, read history, say for 1,000 years or even two, there are very main epochs and upheavals and changes that happen. And then between each and every one, there is a lull or lethargic period is what I call it. People either learning or producing or living or migrate, you know, a normal trend of humanity, right? But between those very markers, there is such thing. In the modern age, if you look, things began to change, whether in Europe or Asia or the Middle East in particular, or even the United States. The appearance of Zionism, things began to change. And now it's hard to relate between the two, but usually you can and should relate between events and certain other events and occurrences. You can relate between the two. I'll give you another example. The Middle East was cruising along ever since the Mongols and the invasion of the Mongols. Eventually that was neutralized, but they really never recovered. The Muslims, for example, I'll give you the story of Baghdad. Some 1.8 million people were murdered in Baghdad, and there was no army. Basically, Muslims at that point, the Abbasids were lethargic, what I call, you know, kicking back and relaxing, and learning was taking place. You know, Baghdad had like so many millions of books in all subjects. Some you know, people designated their lives. Many people, some similar to mysticism. If you look at mysticism in the East or in India and in the West or anywhere else, similar to a monastery. You know how monks sit in monastery and worship and cleanse their spirit and so on. So people in Baghdad, in particular, people think it was Spain and probably southern France and Italy and Sicily. That was the main source of knowledge. No. They were tributaries. Baghdad was the focal point of learning. And people in Islamdom designated their life, their mysticism was learning as well, you know, discovering sciences and so on and so forth, because that was their way to coming closer, inching closer to God, if you will, to Allah. That said, it was actually the main source of knowledge, and some subjects which were there were not yet discovered, and they became extinct because these people were just basically challenging themselves day and night, and in order to discover new horizons and new learning and new subjects and research and understand the universe and then spread knowledge, of course. So many books were, after they killed like 1.8 million, these Mongols took the books and built out of it, made a bridge over the Tigris to move to the to the other bank, right? Because they were just marauding, basically. That's how bad it is. Some subjects modern scientists would kill for. They're gone. That's how bad it was. That's how bad things were under the Mongols. So that's, and then in the Middle East afterwards, really it was recovered. They defeated the Mongols, and then eventually we went about, and the Mongols supposedly converted into Islam to avoid retribution and revenge for Baghdad. However, in all earnest admission, the Middle East really never recovered after that. It recovered partially, but people were basically devastated. Especially the knowledgeable people of it. And I read in certain reference that the Mongols in Baghdad, while they massacred the Muslims, the Jews and the Christians of Baghdad were left intact. They didn't attack them or touch them. That is a fact. And now remember, Baghdad was not invaded by the Arabs. It was built by the Arabs. Built by the Arabs from scratch. Now, Damascus was the capital of engineering, basic and simple. So when Halagu and his marauding creatures went back to Asia, they took 10,000 engineers back with them from Damascus. Damascus was the capital of engineering. And apparatuses and machinery and metallurgy and so on and so forth. That's where Damascus was. The Baghdad was the capital of science, while Damascus was the capital of engineering. So that said, if the Mongols were not defeated in the Spring of Goliath, and now the Spring of Goliath was led, the leader and the king was a Euro-Asian man from Khawarizm, right? And the leader of the battle is a white man, Bibars. Bibars is Mamluk, right? He's from modern day Caucasus region or Circassia. They're white people, blue-eyed and so on. He led the army, while the majority of the army was local volunteers, Arabs and commanders Arabs. The Arabs don't look at people from a racist point of view. They don't care so long you're fighting for the same purpose and common good for humanity. They will enlist under anybody's leadership. But have the Mongols not being defeated in that battle, and believe it or not, even the Crusaders at that time who were in Palestine and Lebanon saw the scourge that is coming from the east, called the Mongols, right? And they saw what happened in Baghdad. They, at that point, struck an alliance with the Arabs or the Muslims and allowed them to go through the land unharmed. And it's been said they even supplied them with materials because they realized living with those Muslims and their science and their knowledge and is far better than being subject to a slaughter. And had the Mongols not been defeated in the Spring of Goliath, believe me, folks, Northwestern Europe will have been Mongol, or anybody left. Probably nobody is left alive in it. Now, I cannot speak about the Mongols in today's term as I would in modern generations as I did back then, because back then were savages out of their posterity. Some are good people, some are bad. Like became everybody else. They melted and dissolved into the local populations of the Middle East, of Russia, of Persia, of India, of Eastern Europe, not North Africa or Africa, but or Arabia for that matter. But that's what it is. If you want to go watch that movie, Ahmed ibn Fadlan, who was actually an engineer, was sent by the Caliph in Baghdad to help the Saqaliba, what we call Saqaliba, against the Kaisers, to build like fortifications, because the Kaisers were encroaching on their frontiers and assaulting them, and something similar to the Mongols, but not as bad. No way. And he was caught by Vikings, and we know the history of the Vikings through that man. So they made a movie about him. Of course, you may think it's fiction. Some of it is probably fictional, but they're portraying the advent of the Mongols, of course, and and I would say the Scandinavians at that time were the Crusaders, and perhaps also they are referencing the future that Europe was spared that scourge and onslaught by the Muslim having suffered so much and having eventually defeated the Mongols and changed them. Basically they neutralized them. That said, I'm warning you about what may come from the east. Right now, it is a consolidation. So in today's term, like back to our original point, as you can see, Syria, and not Syria, Middle East in general, including Persia and Egypt and North Africa and so on. The wars in the Middle East began after, and the appearance of terrorist organizations and so on, such as ISIS, such as Qaeda, such as Syrian regime, such as Hezbollah, such as Iranian regime, such as, elsewhere. They began to appear after the establishment of Israel. In fact, Israel began to materialize in the Middle East in the 1800s as really a purpose, as a destination state. But before that, there was no such thing. People were just cared about no borders or political rivalries or anything else of that matter. And slaughter has happened. In people speak of the Holodomor in Ukraine, that where Stalin, who's a Creed brother of Lenin, re-engineered the Ukraine, tried to re-engineer the Ukrainian population by starvation and the mass extinction of 8 million people ensued, was the result of his re-engineering effort of Ukraine. I mean, you look at that man and it gives you the chills. How can somebody do something like this to innocent civilians? Battles are different, battlefields are different, but to do so to civilians, is something horrifying. People don't know that this has happened in the Middle East too. There was something called Safar Barlik, the travel of Barlik, and the latest Ottomans with the Fez basically did the same thing. They took all the harvest to support the World War I effort, and many millions were killed in Syria. I had testimony by eyewitnesses when I was young, telling me that many houses became empty because of hunger. People just died off, and my own grandmother, who died in the 90s and who was born in the late 1800s, she was witness to that. And she said you would want to go to the market or anywhere else, and she said you will see people sitting and lying on the sidewalks, begging for food, saying hungry, 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 hungry. And she said, and I quote, when she came back from the market, she would see that some of them have already expired, they're dead. And horse carts would come and collect them and dump them into the desert or mass graves or something of the sort. And history speaks very little of that, as if by design. That many million died in Syria and Lebanon and probably Palestine and Jordan as well, but to a large degree in Syria. So this is not the first time Syria has been subject to the slaughter and destruction as the PutinS did. All in all, once the consolidation has happened, a shift in the focus or treatment of people will change in the future. So if you allow them to take over your countries now, they may make you live like the Russian people, but eventually at one stage they will shift, and guess what? Believe me, folks, I cannot be overreacting. I cannot be exaggerating. I cannot be imagining things. Those who know history and go back and reread and research history of the last century, much of it, even though much of it has been erased intentionally, you will realize that the future is bleak unless you stand up now and change it. Just like you are standing up and trying to fight off this vaccine, that dubious, weird, sinister vaccine. You need to fight off those PutinS in the East. And in the United States, like I said, a president, a congressman, and the Senate has, of course, torts. They're called torts. They're circumventing the Constitution day and night. For example, they're issuing executive orders, putting the nation under debt, while supplying the investors with trillions of dollars, while people are struggling to make ends meet. And you may think the United States is a prosperous country. Yes, for some, like they say, all people are equal, but some are more equal than others. A lot of people here work the menial jobs, like Americans, whoever it is, they work menial jobs, meaningly they don't save enough to have like a big house, or to have a house, or guarantee a future. Everybody works, and they bank on Social Security after age 65, that they will get like a meager check that allows them to eat and sit in a room or something like that. The United States is not doing well after John Kennedy, believe me. It was slow descent, but gradually decreasing, right? Gradually sinking down. And now people are hopeless, like from whenever you, college tuition is impossible, and student debt is over $1 trillion. And guess what? They issue trillions a day for the stock market, but they will never forget the debt of those people who will eventually burden and bear and shoulder the debt that is being put on this country and sent to those investment firms. Those evil, sinister investment firms, brothers of Putin and Trump and Obama and Biden and whoever it is. My point is, folks, if you're lethargic about it, don't have children, because you don't want to see what the future has or holds for those people. The notion of other human is so ugly and so dark that it makes you wish that you don't even live on this planet. So that's that, folks. I hope you wake up, and if your government is cohorting and surrendering to Putin intentionally, don't allow that to happen. Go yourself and volunteer and fight for Ukraine. Because when you're fighting on the border of Ukraine, you're fighting for your own house, your own children, your own family, your own country. And this is far worse than the vaccine. If you take the vaccine is sinister, right? My guesstimate first, I thought it was being forced upon people to get out of the hoax, while people in their houses, the establishment of the Mongols was stealing trillions a day. Trump himself said in one of his campaigns in rallies in 2016 that he said, people, trillions at stake. If you know what he means. If you don't know what he means, go back to sleep. You know, it's better for you to go to sleep rather than talk about these things. So while they put people in their houses due to this hoax pandemic, they stole trillions. Nobody hears about that. And now they want to get out of the hoax by forcing the vaccine. Meaningly, they will say in the future that the pandemic was eliminated by way of vaccines. No, that's not true. Now, that's what I thought first, but then now seeing how insistent on it and how forceful about it, and they're willing to do anything to administer this vaccine, I began to suspect it has been in development for decades, perhaps on live subjects, and apparently it's RNA based that may have to do with re-engineering the human genetic makeup, which has survived for millions and probably billions of years, right? And developed into such a human beings. And believe me, no intervention by sinister humans like those PutinS will improve your physiology. It'll degrade it further. I also heard that some of those pills by Pfizer are to treat supposed COVID are medicine for AIDS. You know, they're testing on live subjects in Africa and so on. And I was like, why are they doing this? If you don't have AIDS, why would you want to take pills for AIDS? You understand what I'm saying, right? But then it hit me, you know, AIDS was in itself, I remember in the 80s hearing about it from doctors that it was really genetically engineered virus and probably from Russian labs. And you know what it is, right? You know, once somebody has AIDS, they can't have children anymore. Even if they do, the children's doomed. Saying so, all I'm saying is this vaccine is very sinister. It has something bad in it, and your doctors should know that. And if you have doctors who care about their people, they should make that fact known to your people. Folks, don't allow Russia to come into Ukraine. What Russia's leadership is all about is something sinister, something dark from unknown source that came across the rolled across the earth for thousands of years, and so on and so forth. I can talk about that for hours, but I don't want to make this longer than it should or bearable enough to listen to or watch. But believe me, you ordinary citizens of Germany, France, Scandinavia, Eastern Europe, Southern Europe, English Isles, or this invasion of Ukraine, if it happens, is like the hyenas, how when they mob a lion to steal his kill, right? To steal the lion's kill. Their main tactics are 2 steps forward, 2 steps forward, 1 step backward. Just go watch it. They do that, and then eventually the lion gets unnerved and then leave the kill and they steal the kill. But that's the tactic. Now, their purpose is not that of hyenas. Hyenas, trust me, they make gentlemen next to those crawling creatures east of Ukraine. That's my advice to you. I hope you wake up as ordinary citizen and coerce your government to take action and stand against this scourge from the East. And I hope you wake up, and if not, you need to fight that off as much as you're fighting against the vaccine itself. I wish you luck and good luck and have a nice day.